My guest today is Jorien Staats in Adelaide, and she's working with doctors too, so we thought, hey, this might be a really interesting conversation. She helps doctors achieve an aligned leadership mindset. We'll obviously ask her what that entails. And she has an impressive journey from very elaborate corporate roles in the Netherlands to being an elite athlete, and now she's helping doctors achieve their goals with her business, Direct in Focus Consultancy. So I'm very curious. Jorien, good morning. Or good afternoon. How's life in Adelaide at the moment?
Life is pretty good. We have some thunderstorms going on today, but it reminds me of the Netherlands, the Dutch weather, but that's all fine.
Yeah,
pretty good here.
Absolutely. So your website mentions this big topic, aligned leadership for doctors. Can you take us through the essence of what that actually means for you and for your customers?
Yeah, sure. So what it actually means is that the better you become as a person, the better you're going to lead, the better your contribution to the society will become. So it's just not one thing that I'm focusing on. So my business focus on, it's a holistic approach, and that's why I call it aligned leadership.
Yeah, and so in terms of the work you do with your customers, what is the biggest challenge you solve for your customers?
The biggest challenge they have is all the society pressures, like how they should live their life, how they should work, how they all should, and that causes a lot of stress. They have a very responsible role. Mainly the surgeons, they have a lot of roles. They either work in the hospital, work in the clinic. They see all kinds of opportunities, and then they also have family on the side somewhere. So they want to excel in every area of life and in their career. So I help them navigate that and focus on the right things first. And that's why I look at the whole picture. Okay, where can we start focusing on?
Yeah, that sounds very interesting and very complementary to what we're doing. We often start with this angle of we want more business, we want more patients, and that boils down to actually probably the financial and the ambitious side of things. But you're saying you're doing more like a bigger picture job with them, right? When you have your first intake conversation?
Yeah, exactly. So what I'm basically doing is if you look at the athletes, they all have this sense of always motivated, disciplined, and they get where they want to be. And so I actually looking like what drives a doctor. Yes, of course, the health of their patients, but what is that? What does that mean? What is the bigger picture purpose that they want to achieve, and how does that look like? For example, I work with a surgeon, and he works in the clinic, but he also wants to develop a AI system. So the abuse of the child abuse getting better analyzed, getting better service provided for those children. So he's focusing on study AI, for example, and that is his way of contribution. But in order to do that, he has a high level of stress, so I need to reduce the stress first and make sure that he can cope better with everything that's going on, so his mind becomes free, and so he can focus more on what he wants to develop. If you look at a doctor that's more analytical, it will have more an analytical leadership style, whereas a more people-driven doctor, then it's more about connections, and it's more about connecting with the people, and it's a different leadership style.
In this daily work you do with doctors, looking at their goals, mapping what their life could look like, you tap into your own experience as an elite athlete. So tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, I was always about sports anyhow, and I was 14 years old that I started doing judo, which is big in the Netherlands, not as much here in Australia. And my judo coach at the time said, "Oh, let's make you champion." I was like, "Oh, okay, why not?" And I put in the work and fighting every week. And it's a very exhausting sport with coordination and strength and conditioning, everything. And so in 2 years' time, I reached the Dutch championship level. I didn't win. I just always say that as well. But I learned to deal with all the peer pressures that you get, because in judo your weight is very important. It's all about weight classes. And so at the Dutch championship, I was 200 grams too heavy, for example. Well, and then you have to get strategies to make sure that you're being approved and you can go ahead. And so you're constantly dealing with your food habits, and when you're 16, then friends are like, "Oh, here's a burger, here's some fries, here's a Coke." And you constantly have to learn to say no to those things because you know how much it impacts on your performance on the field. So I learned at a young age the discipline and how to deal with all those peer pressure, because that's what we have a lot, and especially doctors have it even more. If from my perspective, how do you deal with that, and how do you really stay true to yourself? But also, it really learns you. The most important thing is to stay focused on what you want, but also focus on what you don't want and how to deal with those distractions. And even we every day we have so many distractions in forms of social media, people come around. And so how can you deal better with that in a nice way for others, or if it's social media, then it's more you. But that's having that bigger picture that you want to aim for. That's what athletes has, the bigger picture, and enjoy the process to get there. You cannot really manage the outcome, but you can manage the process, what you put in every day. And it's all about looking for every day, to get that 1% better in everything you do. I'm not a doctor. I mean, that's pretty easy. So what I bring to the table is my corporate skill set and the athlete skill set. That's why my experience comes in. And I bring in my Dutch perspective. I'm very straightforward. No bullshit, no fluff. It's just, all right, let's focus. And look, it's the right persons know where they need to look for. And and it's not about telling them things. I'm not that person at all. I'm not telling what they need to do. If I work with sleep and nutrition, because that's a part of what I'm doing as well, look at where can we improve little things. I just tell them, look, I'm not going to tell you how you're going to sleep, how you're going to eat, how you're going to move, how you're going to rest. You are going to tell me that. I just ask questions, or I give them audits so they can see, oh, hang on, I can do better in this area. And I'll give them the information so they can make a decision what works best for them. So I just empower everything what's already in them. I'm not going to tell them anything how they should live or work or whatsoever. So it's all about the power of the right questions.
Sounds great. Now, other than accepting the Dutch directness, what does your ideal customer look like?
My ideal customers are the doctors, that are the specialists that are working in hospitals, but also in the clinic, have more ambition and just juggling with all those balls and need to navigate this all, because if you have different heads, where sometimes I work with somebody also lead the clinic, then he's a surgeon, then he wants to do something else for the contribution for the society. So all those different heads and all to juggle with that all. That are my perfect clients. They are the ones that are afraid to get bored, and they constantly want to be challenged.
That all sounds very inspiring to me, and I'm sure some of our viewers, listeners, followers will like that too. So what is the first step if someone wants to get in touch with you and work with you?
The best way is actually go through my website. They can book in a strategy session of 30 minutes for Zoom. I always love to have a face-to-face. It's like networking, or you meet somebody just face-to-face, but then it's online. I think that's the beauty of what's all happening right now. And that's basically the best way.
Well, thanks a lot, Jorien, for clarifying what you're doing. directinfocusconsultancy.com. You can head to Jorien's website if you want to find out more. Thanks a lot for your time. Thank you for talking to us, Jorien, and wishing you all the best. Speak to you very soon.